Welcome to the Daily Edge. Steve, Jake, Mark, we're the Noodlebergs. Let's find the edge. And that starts with our affirmation, which today's is about mindset and how we control it. I control my attitude, my effort, my response. These are my keys to winning, which is going to lead us to today's topic, which is the 24-hour rule.
You should probably start us off because you have the most relevant experience.
I think we should preface, this is going to be hard. This is going to be difficult. I think the activity is great in thought, but is difficult in the application. And so I'm excited to get into it. So we're going to be talking a lot of stories today.
Yeah.
Wouldn't you agree that all that we teach is, has a degree of difficulty to it?
This one's really emotional.
Yeah,
and this one has to do with the wins and the losses, which I think is different because even we're going to talk about the 24-hour rule. And if you don't know what the 24-hour rule, I think Mark is going to talk on about it, but it's really controlling your emotions.
And we all have stories about
and
this.
It's hard to control your emotion when you're losing and winning. And it's the same formula and the same process. So Mark, kick it off. Talk a little bit about what the 24-hour is.
The 24-hour rule comes from Coach Saban, right? Which obviously I was privileged to work with a lot of guys who worked with Coach Saban and learned a lot about his system and his structure. And one of his philosophies is the 24-hour rule, meaning regardless of win or loss, doesn't matter. You have 24 hours to process it, process the feelings of it, deal with the reality, and then it's time to move on. And that separates winners from losers for sure. And it's a lot easier to do after winning than losing. For me, that really came to life when I got fired from the University of Cincinnati. I was 27 years old. I'd been the special teams coordinator there for a year. We had a massive amount of success despite all of the obstacles that Coach Tuberville had put in my way. And I got a call while I was on vacation.
We were all together, actually.
On
Lauderdale Beach.
Hanging out on the beach, drinking a tequila.
Guy had made it.
Get a missed call from the head coach, which knew immediately, you get a call.
I remember this. I'm what? If you got fired, you were 27. I was 15.
Right.
I was
Perfect.
15. I think I had just gotten my car.
And were you drinking tequila with us?
I don't know. Probably knowing us. I think so. But I remember you looking at me because they had left and it was just you, me, and your wife at the time. And you looked at me and you go, it's never good when the head coach calls you on vacation.
And it wasn't.
Never good. And I went, okay. And
it wasn't. So I picked up the phone, I called him back, and boom, got fired on the spot. He was just like, hey, we're going to go in a different direction this offseason, and you're going to be part of those changes. And I couldn't even process the words really. I was like, you're firing me? This is, really? This is... And he was as just nonchalant, and he was like, don't worry about it. We'll help you find another job. And I was like, wait, what? And hung up the phone, and I stood there for a second, and I was absolutely shattered.
I think it's important to talk about the fact that you were 27 and you were swimming in waters that 27-year-olds really weren't supposed to be swimming. You were the youngest special teams coach.
I was the youngest coordinator in all of major Division I football. And so, for those people who don't understand what that means, there's only 119 special teams coordinators at major Division I schools. At 27, I was one of them.
You were excelling. You were working.
I think you were number 16 in the country.
I think we found that out. I think after you got fired.
Yeah.
Or the week before.
You sent me the screenshot of us being ranked in the top 20 on ESPN.
Right.
But people don't get to experience that because they're never pushing the boundaries.
Yeah.
Right. They're never willing to go to that place where getting fired, getting axed, getting it taken away from you is a reality. They stay, or most of the time the system is built for my generation to be comfortable.
I just saw a video from Jeff Bezos the other day, and he was like, one of the keys to success is committing to inventing. And part of that is constant failure. Everything you're going to try, it's going to fail. It's not going to work. And you got to deal with doing the work to try something and then it not working. It's even harder when you feel like it's successful and something outside of your control then changes that trajectory, which is exactly what that was. And that's why it was such a difficult moment.
I distinctly remember your mentor, Eddie Gran, telling you, hey, welcome to the business. This is a part of the process. This is what goes on. No rhyme, no reason. Now, for me, not really understanding the football business at the time, but understanding real business, day to day, the emotional tug of war that goes on. Boom, high as a kite. It's going great. Boom, get a phone call and a client said no, or a deal got pulled, or for whatever reason, it was over. Dealing with that is a shock to the system.
Yeah. And the 24-hour rule is the thing that really comes into play, because similarly, like you're talking about the highs, right? Winning a big game, winning a championship, we're seeing evidence of it right now with AJ Brown.
Which,
and
if
what
you
he put
have
out.
not seen AJ Brown's post, less than 48 hours removed from winning a title, he sat down, he did the reflective thinking, and he told us in a post that he doesn't give a shit about winning, and he thought that it would validate everything about his journey, and really having that clarity to process that and put it into a place to then move forward. And we talked about it on the previous episode, but climbing that mountain, does success get boring? And if you are trying to get your feeling from the outcome, it's going to fade, and you're going to have to keep trying to do it. And so if it's not built in that process, there's no way you'll have the longevity to stay successful.
When we talk about people in sales, you have to be willing to deal with rejection.
Sure.
That's just
70% of the time if you're like one of the best ones.
Business. But on the converse side, as you said, I talk to people now and they're still reveling in a deal that they did 8 years ago. Oh, but I did this. And we're like, dude, that's 8 years ago, man. Let's get focused on. So no matter what it was, you either had a colossal failure or a colossal win. This is a daily challenge.
The thing I love about the 24-hour rule, though, is that it embraces the humanness of you. Because I think a lot of people think about like elite champions or elite entrepreneurs like they don't have emotions, or like they're not human, or that they don't have feelings. Right. And they do. Everybody does. They're just better at processing them. They're better at saying, okay, this moment is absolutely amazing because we won, or it's the fucking worst thing possible because I got fired or I lost or whatever that thing happened is. And then they're willing to go, but it's not permanent. And I'm not going to allow the emotion of this moment to affect what happens 24 hours now. So revel in it and feel that it's wonderful, or wallow in it and sit in your pity. But either way, when the sun comes up the next day, you are going to then take action on the next thing that needs to happen in order to create progress for yourself, which that's the difference between the elite and everybody else.
Absolutely. And if you don't know, they're both authors. So we're going to say that a lot on this show. They both wrote a book. But Dad, you talked 27 rules, and I actually don't think this became one of your rules.
Nope.
But I know it's a philosophy that you live by, and it's celebrate the wins. And you talk about the importance of doing that. And I would love to get your perspective on how you balance the two, of really, when do you celebrate? When do you, giving yourself the time?
Well, when you live in a business where 70 or 80% of the time you're listening to no, if you don't have fun when you get a yes, you're going to drive yourself. Then it's like, what's the point? So It's never about the money. It's about, all right, man, we did this, man. Ring the bell. Like I remember in my office, I think
you said last week for our new
office. Got to get a bell.
We went to a marina. We bought the biggest fucking bell we could find. And when we hit something, bam, everybody was there. And it resonated with the whole office. We wanted to celebrate. Now, the problem with celebrating is you can't revel in it. You got to, okay, now we're going to get back to doing it. And I think that's where process has helped me in all of those things. Is like, yes, celebrate, but then let's get back to those daily behaviors. Now, the biggest loss of my career, people ask me this all the time. We had a naming rights deal. It was a $30 million deal that I was already in the client's office ready to sign it. I had gone there and they just said, hey, we went with somebody else. And I really felt like somebody tore my tonsils out. I was like, oh my God.
I'm sure the money had already been spent too, right?
I was already, it's so funny because I'm talking about ego. Wow, we did this. Right. Money, I already spent some of the commission money. It was ridiculous for a small company like ours to do that, but we thought we did it, and then it got snatched, and those emotions were free falling oh my God, what are people going to say? What are people going to do? What am I going to do?
Well, I think you talked about you had a mentor earlier. He talked about that you had the mentor, and in certain situations, there are people you can go to, and you can build that board of directors that we like to call your personal board of directors. But a lot of the solo entrepreneurs don't have that, right? Or that they sit and they revel in the wins or the losses, right? And then the thoughts start to go. So how do you
people inside of major organizations don't have it? Like there are teams of people that are sitting with bad leaders that they don't have it. Like they lose a deal or they have a major setback in their team, and they're not with somebody that can help bring them out of that. Like I think that's the benefit of being in the world we live in today. And like I was at an event last week, ran into an old friend of ours, and they were like, "Oh, I'm off social media. I hate it." And I was like, "Really? What happened?" Right? And they got wrapped into all the other stuff, right? The noise of social media. And I looked at them and I was like, you can control that, right? And so like for the people who don't have somebody, it exists on YouTube. It exists on Instagram. It exists in all of these places. There are people that are preaching to you what you need in order to help you get out of that situation. You just have to choose to listen. You choose to find it and choose to listen to it.
So I think it's perspective. When I look at what happened to you, you were the guy who coached the team to 16th in the country. When someone else bangs you on the head and says, "You're no good,
not good enough,
we're getting rid of you," you can listen to that narrative, or you can say, "Fuck you, I did this and I'll go do it somewhere else." I had to come to the realization that, hey, this client was about to spend $30 million with us. Don't make it about me. Make it about where else can I help them grow their business by spending that money. But when you internalize it, dude, it is devastating. It will eat you up forever.
Well, I think you have to hit on that when talking about the 24-hour rule, which is like, what are the feelings that you feel inside of that 24-hour rule, particularly when you get hit with failure, which is absolute just devastation to your self-esteem. I'm worthless. I'm no good.
Yeah,
right? I'm
embarrassed. Shit, I gotta tell people I got fired or I didn't get the deal.
All of the negative feelings that are associated with that. And then like being able to tell yourself it's okay to feel these.
Telling yourself it.
Right.
As you have to.
Can you relate to that feeling right now while we're talking about it?
My stomach still hurts when I think about it.
It was like,
it's the worst.
I don't want to do that, man.
I'd love to tell my story on kind of how, I had to get over it. And this was a failure. And obviously I've won championships on teams. I've watched people get drafted. There's been success in professional life and building businesses and stuff like that. I was a junior in college. I was a student assistant working for Dan Mullen and the Florida Gators staff. And I was in charge of the wristbands. And I vividly remember this.
Telling the story.
It's 2 weeks. We have 2 weeks before we play Georgia. And what a leadership lesson is. Mullen would like to change everything in those 2 weeks. We had more time, which meant he could think more and implement more, which only confused the players, confused the staff. And I remember he comes in on Thursday night. We're playing that Saturday. It's the second week. We've been practicing something for 2 weeks. And he comes in, he goes, "I hate it, change it all." And that required me sitting in a dark office, going through every number, rewriting it, doing
whatever it
takes, right? It was fun.
When you're tired, when you don't have a whole lot of time to do it, like not in a situation where it's like, oh, we have all this time to change.
And I'm not saying this to make excuses. It's my job to get it freaking right? And I'm also pretty low on the totem pole at this point, but I am responsible. Long story short, we go to the game where we're going through pregame walkthrough. I don't know, not my fault, but I guess we never ran this play in pregame walkthrough. And sure enough, we get to the game. He calls a play. I look down at my wristband and I realize we're in the complete wrong formation. It's totally my fault. I mean, a total F up on my part. I have the wrong number on the sheet, which equates to different people
Blood
being
from
on
your
the
head
field.
to your feet.
I mean, imagine a game.
It is what it is.
100,000 people.
Oh, man.
And
I was one of those.
And I'm now 19 years old, or I'm 21 at this time, or whatever I am. And we call a timeout, and I go, "Holy shit, I just cost the Gators a timeout." Like, holy shit, Jake Noodleberg just cost the Gators a timeout. And he's mother F, and everybody knows damn well it's me. Well, we lose the game, not because of that. We lose the game, and this guy goes into his post-game press conference or whatever, and he goes, "We had massive communication failure It was completely wrong on the wristbands. I mean, drives the bus back over me. I mean, like, I'm sitting in the locker room, like, crying. Like, I threw up at half. Hold on, I threw up at half.
Right.
I was so distraught. I threw up at half that I had made a mistake. That night, I sit in a dark room all night. I remember I didn't go to bed, but we get back. It's 3 a.m. I'm sitting there. It's dark. It's dark. I'm like, boom, boom. I walk into the office. There's a coach sitting there who had been coaching for a while, and he goes, "Hey, you all right?" He could tell I was, and I go, "Yeah, I'm not right," And he was like, he put my arm around me, and he goes, "Dude, I've been in this profession for 70 years." He goes, "One, someone should probably have checked it after you, considering they make a hell of a lot more money." And he goes, about what the head coach said, if you're basing it on his, valid,
you hit on a word there, validation.
Validation.
Like
goes, you're not going to last in this business.
I think
you do a damn good job, and you're in that position because you do a damn good job, and don't ever allow this to stop it.
When we talk about that mentality in sales, if you are waiting for clients to validate you, you will drive yourself right into the water. It cannot be. And for me, that was a big shift. That was like saying, hey, it's going to go good. It's going to go bad.
To go back to what AJ Brown posted, right? Like, he loves the work. And so, like, if the results are the only thing that validate you, you are never going to find fulfillment in what you do. The work has to be the thing that validates you. The showing up every day, the consistency to the behaviors, the doing what you need to do in order to find success. Forget about being successful. And I think that's what was really born out of the 24-hour rule, was like, screw it. Win or loss, we got to get back to doing what we need to do.
You talked about Saban. Saban wins the national championship, and 2 hours later, he's in the office going over film.
We talked about it. Now that he retired, he said, I actually hated that part of the business. He goes, I never, talking about celebrating the wins and being good, he goes, I was always on to the next. And I never appreciated the kid I was with or the team that we had won with. I was worried about the next kid that had to come in.
That's a true story. He was in watching film.
Next day, he was on the road recruiting. And Mark, I think for our listeners, before we get out of here, is a little bit of a framework on how somebody can apply the 24-hour rule to their life.
So this goes to the TEDx talk, which if you guys haven't seen the TEDx talk, go there and find out about failure.
I did a TEDx talk.
But so I think the first step in the process is the 24-hour rule, right? And allowing yourself to feel those emotions and deal with whatever that is. And then it's going and reviewing, right? Which we studied the tape over and over. You go back, you go, okay, why didn't that deal close?
Right.
What did I miss?
Ownership.
What did I miss in there? Where did we, have a breakdown that we could have, somebody else should have looked at the call sheet, right? Oh, I could have done a better job of facilitating a relationship with the head coach. What can I own in the failure that allows me to then go on to the next step, which is, how do I plan to avoid that the next time, right? How do I ensure that I don't repeat the same mistake? Because you're for sure going to fail again. You're for sure going to have to deal with the 24-hour rule of negativity again, but you don't want to do it for the same thing, which is then getting back out there and trying again and doing it over and over. So it's that 4 simple steps of 24-hour rule, review, plan, take action, and do it again. And you do that over and over and over. And that's how you become more successful.
You know for a fact, if you're not failing, you're not doing it.
You're not trying. You're not trying. You're not trying.
So it's, but that leads down the road of your friend Trevor, God rest his soul, Trevor Moad, wrote a book about going to neutral.
Yeah.
And you saw Jalen Hurts neutral, man. He was hurt. They were telling him he wasn't worth it. He's just neutral.
The 24-hour rule is definitely the key to neutrality. And I think we'll hit on neutrality and more conversations about mindset. Thank you guys for finding the edge with us today. Make sure you watch, like, subscribe, be a part of the community, and be with us the next time we find our edge. We'll see you soon.